Okay, well, it is no surprise that there is a wealth of interest here and questions, and I'm trying to organize this. Let me try to do this. We have some specific, almost factual-oriented questions. That I'm going to put a bunch of these on the table rather than go through them one by one. For Christina and Sarah, just a question on how your organizations are funded. Sarah, how does the Freelancers Union put pressure on employers to raise standards? Christina, not only talking about the Texas Workers Defense Group, but there are other worker center success stories, and many of them have a focus on the immigrant workforce, Latinos in particular. How can immigration reform advocacy be coupled with labor organizing to build strength? A reference to the late Al Shanker's leadership genius, where he combined hard tactics and militancy, political mobilization, together with what's referred here as soft power. I would characterize it a little bit differently, but having to do with the quality of the institutions in which our members work, the fact that our members, and not just our members, but in general, workers want to do a good job. They would like support in enhancing their own skills, in addition to the wages, hours, and working conditions. How can we develop this leadership capacity, capability across the various sectors of the labor movement? Jessica, beyond the building trades example, is there any kind of movement within the AFT for consideration of the application of those pension funds and the power that resides within them to other sectors? And a question also, going beyond simply building trades jobs that connect generally, is there anything in terms of an orientation, earmarking perhaps, to creating jobs outside of the rebuilding infrastructure that the AFT is advancing? What is the potential for labor organizing in multi-employer collective bargaining and geographically based organizing as opposed to individual workplace organizing? Anyway, these are some things that have surfaced. Maybe there are a couple of, taking quickly the specific questions to Christina and Sarah about your own organizations, and then we can move to the more general that's been put on the table.
So I would say that the thing I love most about my job is spending time thinking through strategy, though I spend a good 50% of my time hustling and tap dancing for money. So most of our funding comes from foundations, and then some unions, a very small percentage, and then some private businesses, and then individual donors, but the large lion's share is going to be from foundations. To go to the question about worker centers and the immigrant workforce, clearly for us, immigration reform is so critical for Texas. 1 in 10 workers in our state are undocumented. Not in our industry, but just the entire state. I think there are many unions that are really seeing executive action as a real organizing opportunity. Our organization has been thinking about it for several years and are thinking through it with our labor partners in the state and community partners to not just enroll people, but use it as a membership-based building opportunity. We hope to expand our membership base probably by like 7 times the size because of immigration reform or executive action in Texas, in our core cities. And in addition, bring in substantial revenue to the organization for charging for a service to help people enroll versus giving away the service and not being able to service many people. But then also being able to screen workers for what kind of training they have, who's their employer, what industry do they work in, what are their wages, would they like to be part of a union, and would they mind if we passed off their information to the respective union that makes sense given the industry that they work in. And also, clearly in the building trades, a major challenge in our state and in other places is the fact that many training programs, one, aren't available in Spanish, which the majority of the workforce are monolingual Spanish speakers. So that's a challenge that the building trades needs to address if they're actually going to be able to organize this workforce. And secondarily is the fact that now thousands of workers will have the opportunity to work for union contractors that have used E-Verify for the last several years and just hold on to the last several good jobs that exist currently in the Texas construction industry. So there will be lots of opportunities to organize, but again, this is just a sector of the workforce, so it's a good opportunity to prepare for one day if we have a Congress that decides to actually take action on immigration reform, when we'll actually be able to enroll millions versus thousands. So.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to just say one thing and then get to the question. I think that really, I hope for today is that we come to this in the spirit of really using any tool available. That I can't imagine that anybody feels nothing but gratitude for the brothers and sisters who fought and built institutions, our grandparents and great-grandparents that, built something that let us come here today to have this conversation. And I think we're all here trying to think about, what will that be for our grandchildren and their children. And so I think it's in that spirit that I hope we hold that dear. So if you think about freelancer, people who work gig by gig and project to project will often have 6 employers, 8 employers. They'll have one employer for 1 month, and so you can't just engage in a strategy with one employer. There are different unions like the National Writers Union that I think have done that when they're focusing on, let's say, one employer that has a lot of freelancers. And so for us, instead, it's really been thinking about strategies. Our members came together and they literally built something called Contract Creator to build contracts to protect themselves. Another thing that that our members created was a client scorecard, so that it's really pretty interesting. They put about an employer that didn't pay them or did something not great, and we get regular emails and contact from employers and their lawyers telling us to pull it down. So we know that there's something in that, and I would say for us, strategically, the number one issue for our members has and still continues to be in many ways healthcare. So that a lot of them are above the subsidy level, just above, so they're still having difficulty getting healthcare. But I would say what we're now really seeing more than anything is unpaid wages. And so that one is going to become the next issue, where it's really trying to get a kind of crowdsourced orientation around what happens when one particular employer isn't paying people, and to start to really take a page from a lot of great organizing that's been done throughout the country in terms of an employer's brand is their bread and butter. And so really starting to think more broadly that way.
Any other questions that I had asked? Go ahead, Jess.
So in terms of the use of, or the application of pension funds, which represent an enormous opportunity, but also a responsibility. So the investment in infrastructure, long-term growth, meets our fiduciary responsibilities. Patient capital ensures that our those who participate in those plans will have a pension when it comes time, and will continue to get one if they're receiving it now. And from that lens, there are many other opportunities. I'll just give one example that also goes beyond just infrastructure jobs. The working with TIA-CREF, which many of you recognize, but in the higher ed world is usually the pension product of choice of faculty and others who work in higher education systems. And we've spent the last several years, because we have so many members who participate in the TIA-CREF plans, working directly with TIA-CREF on sort of responsible policies for their real estate investments. And the responsible policies are twofold. One is in the actual construction, but the second is in the building service and maintenance work that follows. And so through that relationship with TIA-CREF and working with our partners in unions representing those workers in either building service or in construction, we've been able to ensure that when TIA-CREF invests responsibly in real estate deals, that the jobs that are produced the workers have an opportunity to belong to a union, have union representation, and that they can bargain collectively with their employers. I would say also that we are the frontiers of this work are yet to be discovered. That we are also the pension. We have this situation many of you know with hedge fund managers who seek to manage our pension funds by day, that 1 to 2% of 300 billion earns them a lot of money. And yet by night, in their capacity as members of foundations or going to events where theoretically they're, in their interests of vanity, are contributing to supposedly do good causes, are actually contributing to forces that would destroy public education. So you have this irony. They earn money from our members' deferred wages, because what else is a pension plan, by day, and then by night they're contributing to, in our world of education, the Manhattan Institute, Students First, organizations that have actually gone on record saying that a pension is a defined benefit pension is actually not a good thing, and that we should change to defined contributions for teachers so that actually we can have higher turnover, less experienced teachers. And so you have this situation where they're contributing to organizations that want to destroy defined benefit plans for teachers, and yet they're making money off of defined benefit plans for teachers. So we're doing something about that. We publish an asset manager report once a year, and I want to let you know that it's been actually very successful. We've worked with, there have been a number of hedge funds that have actually stopped contributing to organizations that are calling for an end of defined benefit plans. And we intend to continue that work and to spotlight that, because the potential in our pension plans is enormous. We have to be very careful about this. I mean, all of us, I think, read way back when The North Will Rise Again by Randy Barber, and then a number of union pension plans went out and did things that got them in jail. I'm looking at my sister from the maritime industry in particular. But things have changed, and we have those tools available to us, and we're only at the beginning of thinking about how we use this power.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
I want to go back to this question of class consciousness that got raised this morning and that Sarah has now re-raised by her summary call for us to see that we are actually entirely, all of us, freelancers or standard employees, we are in it together, which I think it was what you meant. I believe that the formation of class consciousness, there's a lot of historians in the room that can tell us, how to read about that. But, so much of it is formed through and people's inclination to take collective to contemplate collective action is formed through learning by doing it, as opposed to reading about it or being preached to about it. For us, this comes very acutely in the that Randy referred to this morning, with the lack of American general public support for the institutions that promote the common good, the public services and sectors and structures of our society. So that our struggle as public employee unionists is made acutely more difficult by that challenge. But when we look back to what happened in Chicago when the teachers struck, and how incredibly different public opinion turned into being by the question of keeping public schools open and making them good places for kids to go to, was raised by the sharpness of that struggle. The lesson from that, to me, is that any way and in any opportunity that we can link up what you are doing with what I am doing, and what I am doing with what you are doing, and you is defined in the most broad of terms, as Sarah tried to just define it, that's the building block for making breakthroughs in terms of class consciousness, and that has to be part of our agenda, no matter what we are doing in whatever sector, for whatever group of workers. We always have to have the agenda item of how do we link it to what somebody else is doing somewhere else.
A good final comment. All right, we are out of time. Let's thank the panel for a great job.